Hi folks, I'm Mike and I hope you're well. Welcome to this special edition of Fix My Mix. I'm really excited about this one actually. It's something a little bit different and we'll get into that in a moment. Can I say hi first of all to those who are already here in the live chat. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll be saying hi to some of you in a moment. And I want to say, of course, a big thank you to the sponsor of the show. That is distrokid.com. If you follow the link in the description, this one I'm pointing to here right now, then you can get a small discount from there. What is usually quite a cheap price from them anyway. We'll be talking about DistroKid here and there during the show. As I say, it is an exciting show. Fix My Mix, of course, is about people sending their current mixes, the current versions of their mixes into the show and getting feedback from my guests. That's what normally happens, and then hopefully that provides an opportunity to improve on those mixes before you go ahead and release them. And what has come up from time to time are mixes from people who are collaborating with other people. Now, of course, musicians have always collaborated, but the nature of collaboration has changed quite a bit, and more often it's happening with people being in remote locations from one another. So in today's show, we're doing something a bit special. We've got a couple of guests on who are actually people who have sent a mix into the show previously and had it critiqued. And indeed, those people were working remotely and did a remote collaboration. I think it's very exciting, but the truth is that I get asked about it an awful lot, and I don't know that much about it because I haven't personally done a lot of remote collaboration. So hopefully, if you have also not done a lot of remote collaboration, this show can be a real learning experience for you as we discuss with our guests what their process was, etc. I do want to say hi to some of the people in the live chat, and if you are in the live chat right now, could you just make sure you go ahead and hit that like button for us? It really does help out and lets other people know we're here and something exciting is happening. So I want to say hi to I know the pronunciation now. Rocky is nice to see you. Hi from Argentina there. Nice. Rocky's show was on, song was on the show, I think last week or the week before. My memory. We also have the wonderful Doug Kidder in here, one of our mods. Always nice to see you, Doug, and I hope it's a reasonable hour for you. I don't know your actual name, but it's always nice to see Order D29 in here, a very nice contributor to the conversation always. And then, of course, another familiar face. We have Jeremiah Peterson. Nice to see you here. There's a few people from the USA in here, so I guess it's good timing for them. And finally, I guess we'll say hi to Kiana, of course. It's always nice to see Kiana in here. And she is also moderating, so, behave nicely. And then I think we'll say, is it Dino or Dino? Do I get it wrong all the time? I probably do. It's just one of my things that I get people's names wrong. In the preview to the show, in the little chat I have with the guests before the show, I was getting one of the guest names wrong through most of the chat, probably. A little embarrassing, but hopefully he'll forgive me for that. Let's get on with who the participants are and how this all came about. But what I'm going to start off by doing is actually playing the song that was submitted to the show originally. It was actually, I think, on the second episode of Fix My Mix. We're on this would technically be episode 11. So it was a little while ago. It was a few weeks ago, and it was one of the earlier submissions. Now, the sort of artist, if you like, or the original composer of the music was a gentleman called Mark Fahey. I think I've got that correct. I'm looking at my little screen. Mark, just nod for me if I've got that correct. Okay. And the person that he collaborated with is very well known to most of you if you have been in the chat or in my Facebook group, and he goes by the handle, we'll use that term to be cool, of Mimo Japan. These guys collaborated, and this is the song that was sent in. Let's have a listen to that now. We'll start at the beginning even.
man standing in a spotlight, trying to stay strong, trying to hold on. I open my eyes to things that I've disguised, things I thought I knew were only things that are just lies. There were times I got down on my knees, looking for my faith, running far away from me. There were nights I could not sleep, nights I feel the demons running deep inside of me. I'll be your hero. I'll be the man you need if you're standing here in my shadow. You will always be the light that I need. I can't lie, God knows I've tried. Hide my fears, hide these tears of feeling just so tired. There's a light that'll shine so bright. Hold your head in my hand, I can guide you in the night. There were times I got down on my knees. There were times I thought I couldn't breathe. Many times that I thought I couldn't see. Looking at you straight, let me get up off my knees. Holding on alive like it's just a shattered dream. I've been listening to my heart, I know our family needs. I will hold you in my arms, I will guide you to your dreams. I will never let you fall. I'll be your hero. I'll be the man you need if you're standing here in my shadow. You will always be the light that I
So there we have it, the original. And here we have our co-conspirators for this song. We have Mark Fahey and Mimo Japan. It's officially his surname. Japan, isn't it, Mimo?
Yeah, well, kind of. Right.
Nice to have you on the show, gentlemen. So nice to have some actual artists on the show rather than those rubbish YouTubers I normally have on here expressing their opinion about everything. Now, can I first of all, I want to go well, quickly. I know I said I would do something different in the intro when I was talking to you guys. Mimo, first of all, was it hard for you to listen to an old mix? Were you just going, oh my God, we've changed that?
No.
You were good.
Not at all. Yeah, because it is. I could very clearly hear how it differs from what we have done since then.
I'm glad you've said that because, folks, we're going to be playing the newest version of the mix a little bit later on in the show. But first of all, I've rudely gone to Mimo first. I really want to go to Mark first. Mark, can you? I know there's a little bit of a backstory to this song. Can you tell us first of all, hi, and can you tell us a little bit of the backstory to why you wrote this song?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, the song means a lot to me. I had a terrible experience with our daughter after she was about a year old. She was taking really bad seizures, and we had no idea why. And we were in, we were, God, we were almost living in the hospital, and we actually almost lost her. And a lot of the lyrics that I wrote for that song was because of that. I was angry. There's a lot of lyrics like feel the demons running deep inside of you, and
Mm-hmm.
on your knees looking for your faith, run away from. It was a scary, scary time. And some of the best things that you can do is take life experiences and actually put it on paper,
Yep.
and put it to music, because
Mm-hmm.
it's emotional and there's a lot of feeling in it. And then my goal was to get the audience to feel that song,
Yeah.
right? Feel the
Yeah.
emotion in that song, because it was
Mm,
very emotional for me.
mm,
And
mm.
just on another note, my she's fine now, so
Good. Good. Glad to hear
so
that.
everything's good.
Well, I mean, that's it's. I do, and, I think there's two types of songwriting. Some people just create stories, and that's good. That's fine. I think it's very creative, but I do think that there's something a little extra to a song when it comes from a real life experience. So I think it's great. Now, so you've written this song. You had written this song, and just take me a little bit through the initial process of, first of all, why did you want to collaborate? I mean, couldn't you just do all this by yourself? Why would you want to involve, especially this guy here? Why would you want to involve him? He's so busy anyway. I mean, so how did it get going, Mark, from that point of view?
Oh, it was funny. I reached out, like I play in a local band here, and I sent it to my lead guitarist, Neil Bishop, and he listened to it, and he really liked it, and he put those lead guitar riffs in there, and
Mm-hmm.
I put a little rhythm in it, and kind of just sang the melody how I wanted it to go. And I mean, I haven't played piano in 20 years, so I'm terrible at it. So I just I just felt like the song just had something there. So I put that post on your group page there, and said,
By the
is
way, links in
anybody.
the description. Links in the description, folks, for the Cakewalk Facebook group, growing all the time and moderated by some wonderful people as well. Yes, yes. So you put the post there. I vaguely recall the post, and you were just. Did you get many responses, by the way?
I got a few. I mean, there was a couple guys that um, laid a piano track, and I listened to it. One Gilson Mata, Mata. I think I'm sounding
Mm-hmm.
like you pronouncing my name, but I wanted to. I listened to a beautiful, beautiful piano player, and I heard that, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And he laid a bass track, and it was beautiful too. And then another person, Neil McKinnon, laid a piano track, and I loved both of the piano tracks. And Mimo sent me a message there. He said, "I'm always up for a collaboration if it clicks with me." I said, "Okay, well, I'll send it to him or whatever." Because
You notice he said, "If it clicks with me," I mean, everything clicks with him. You just punk, classical, jazz, it'll all click. So, Mimo,
So,
what was your first thoughts? Like, so Paul, did Paul send you like a little demo of the song,
No,
or
it was
no?
not Paul who sent me
Oh,
anything.
sorry, Paul. Mark, did Mark send you a demo of the song? See, I told you I'd do it. I told you, well done, thank you.
Yes, he sent me the demo of this song, and um, then I did listen to it, and well, at first sight, so to say, it did like a click with me, and by clicking with me, it just means I listen to something, and I'm not a songwriter. I don't know even the chords which are going on.
Mm,
I hear something, and I randomly push some key,
mm,
and when I find something matching. Oh, it must be around here. Then I'm just like I say plonking around, and then I can feel, oh, I can do something with that. But that's not the point. My point, my first question to Paul was actually
Thank you.
I did ask him how do you because there was already a piano contained, and so I asked, do you want this kept like it is and maybe with some additions or something? And he said some kind of yes, because I could of course do freestyle mimo improvisation on that, but that was not the purpose from the beginning. And because there was already content, and I was just I think rather about timing issues, like there were some tones off time, and rather than fixing that artificially, maybe somebody could put a new piano on that. So that is how that started, and I did adhere to the theme which was already in there from in the first part and second part, and on the final part, I let the mimo go a little bit, but it is a very on low level, because it's not to stand out. It is just to give to fill the empty spaces which are there, and
Sure.
that was the first thing
So,
actually.
so did you make any? Can I just talk about the collaboration in the sense of organisation? Was there I'm getting the feeling here that this is Mark's piece, right? Mimo, from your perspective, you're respecting that he's the composer, he's the creator. But did you have a discussion about that, or that's just the way it evolved? And
We had lots.
yeah, but in terms of who, I guess I wonder if there's a point where people, when they collaborate, have to make a decision about, is there one person who's going to have a final say, about decisions?
That's Mark, of course, because it's his song. I feel like just like a little guest player there. But when that was done, and in the beginning you have heard the first version, there was almost like only the piano in there. But when that song started, and speaking of a feeling which appeared to me, one of my first mentions to Mark was, what, I think there should be some deep strings in that beginning part already. And because I have very nice cello virtual instruments here, like 2 or 3 of them, and they are modeled things. So this is not samples or something. It is really, it sounds like you play it, and I'm not cello player, but so I did just like instinctively put some stuff there, and then I asked, what do you think about that? And
Cello is such a emotive instrument, isn't it? There's just something about it. If you want to stir up
beautiful.
people's emotions, use a low cello.
It was perfect for the song.
So that we've got a point of reference for people, I'm just going to play a little bit of something that Mark gave to me, which is a kind of a file that I think was the first file that you sent, Mimo. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah.
It is. Okay, so Mark's looking a little bit sheepish now, like, oh my God. So
Don't judge me on this.
there are some big empty gaps in the middle of this. I'm guessing that did you send this through just as a WAV file, or did you send it through as a project file, or what have you? How did you actually send this to Mimo?
I sent it as a wave. I just kind of copy paste, put stuff in there, and made a beat on my kid's Casio keyboard. It's just, I told Mimo, I said, don't judge me on this.
Okay, let's just have a quick sort of listen to, we'll call this Beginnings. Okay, so Mimo was thinking at this point, there's a lot of gaps in this I've got to fill.
I'm just a man standing in a spotlight, trying to stay strong, trying to.
You know what? I'm going to say nobody likes to hear their vocals in isolation, right? It's always but it's pretty good, Mark. It's pretty good. If I could sound like that in isolation, I'd be pretty happy. You're doing pretty well there. Let's just move on a little bit further on to where there was a little bit more kind of happening.
Shine so bright. Hold your head in
Here's
my
the Casio.
hand, I can guide you.
Is that really the Casio? Really?
Oh yeah, I sat there. Well, I mixed music for a friend's band, and I heard I had a drum meeting, and I listened to it. I said, okay, I'm going to do something like that. So I took the keyboard out, and I was my son's keyboard trying to find the keys because I wanted Mimo to kind of hear like a bit of a drum beat, right? I was like, oh my god, this is terrible, but you know, I
It's
know
not that
he'll.
bad. It's not that terrible, actually. To be honest with you, I've heard a lot worse. All right, let's go a bit further on. What have we got here?
You will always be the light that I need.
It's interesting. So no bass in there at that point, Mark.
No.
Okay, and that was just because you don't play bass, or you hadn't thought of a bass, but you just wanted to let Mimo take that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm strictly a rhythmist, like an acoustic rhythmist. I write a lot of music. I wrote music for other bands, and you know, I just usually lay a track and just lay a vocal and
Interesting,
And,
very interesting. I like this, and I'll just go a little bit further on here and have another. I'm interested in. Here we go. This is really fascinating for me because honestly, you know, I allegedly play guitar a little bit, but I would always put down, like when I was recording a guitar part, I would always put down some bass and some other things as a bed. I find it interesting that you were able to record your solo lead parts without an accompaniment. Is that something that can you just hear it in your head, or what's going on there when you're doing it?
it wasn't easy. It wasn't, but a lot of the time what I'll do is I get a melody or anything in my head, I'll take my phone out and just put it on record and start kind of doing that. So I pieced it together, and yeah, I could just hear a piano track in there, and that's when I sent it off and said, hey, do you think, what can you throw into this here for a piano that will kind of work with this song? And
And can I
I
ask,
stated in
that lead guitar part that we're hearing there, was that did you re-record that later, or was that the final that went into the song?
No, it was amazing actually, because I had those the lead guitarist in our band we play with laid those tracks down, and I sent them to Mimo. It was actually 2 tracks, especially in the end of the song, the solo, and he took both of those, and I don't even know how he did it, but he blended them together and made them sound like one piece. And I was constantly messaging him like, how the hell did you do that? Because it's all the same. Those guitars in that are all the original.
That's actually really, really impressive that was done like that.
Very
So
impressive.
Mimo, you hear that, and because you know, in a musical sense, usually a lead part, a melody, you know, the relationship between that and the chord structure underneath is so important. It can change things. So had Mark sent you the chords, or did you kind of just hear what chords should be there, or what went on from there?
No, he didn't send me any chords, and even if he would have, that would be a waste of energy, because I don't know the chords, as I mentioned already. I don't read score and all that stuff. But my first reaction was exactly as you stated before. Why the frog is there no bass in that? So my next message was actually to Mark. Do you have a good bass router instrument? If not, I can maybe put temporarily something put on there, and that is what I did. That is how the first bass track came to that, together with the strings, I think. And about the 2 guitar solos, that was very funny. Both were great on their own, but and they were the full length. But I did like the first half of the one track and the second half of the other track, and they sounded different, because Mark said, I think they were totally different takes, or even different guitars or something like that, if I recall correctly. So what I did is I did first figure out where these can be put together, and then I have a tube screamer, which is very powerful thing. I have maybe 4 or 5 tube screamers. One is a hardware, and 4 of them are software. And so I put that on there, and then some EQ and some reverb adjustment, and that even now, because I know where the switch is, and I still hate it a little bit because I can hear it. There's but I don't know, maybe no a normal listener might not
I didn't
spot
pick up
it.
on
But
it at all, and
yeah, that's very good. Then it
I'm
is
quite a normal listener. Look, I'm going to do a little quick break to our sponsor, but when we come back, we're going to be talking about some of the nitty gritty of sharing files and things. I just want to say to people in the live chat, if you're thinking about collaborating and if there's anything specific that you would like to know from my guests here, please do ask about it in the chat. But after you have done all of this mixing and you want to release a song, then I hope that everyone would choose DistroKid to release a song, and you'd want to get it on a playlist. And one of the ways you can do that is to use DistroKid's Spotlight feature. Let's have a look at that. Submit your music to the DistroKid Spotlight feature. It gets entered into this competition where it gets played alongside other songs, and people will vote for which of the two they see on the screen is their favourite. Now, the better you do in this process, the more likely you are to appear in one of DistroKid's playlists on Spotify, and that means your music's got a much better chance of being heard. So you simply go ahead and select one of your songs, and then you've just got to select a 29-second clip, the best part of the song. It would be the best way to go with this, and you've got this nice sort of interactive feature here to do that. You simply then select the Connect with Spotify button, and you're away. So I'm assuming, I hope I'm assuming correctly, that Mark, are you normally a Cakewalk user, and were you using Cakewalk for this?
Yes. Yeah.
You were. Okay, cool. That's interesting, because I know that there's sometimes some specific Cakewalk questions. So I want to talk about the issues involved with that. First of all, what kind of files did you share with each other? What was going backwards and forwards with the projects? And how do you deal with things like you perhaps not having the same plugins and things on your system? I'm going to go to Mimo for this one. Is that okay, Mark? I'm pointing the wrong way. Mimo, let's first of all talk about file types. Projects or bundles, and
No.
stems.
Just audio, yeah, and not even stems, but just the stereo mix down is what we actually did. Aside from things like, for example, the vocal, where had asked Mark's son for, I think, more than a month, but he kind of, I don't know why, but he didn't send me the stuff. And so and then, but because simply I wanted to put some more instruments on there, but that in my imagination, that can only be done in a great way when there is a balance. And like I said, I like to fill the empty spaces. Like, I want to put something where there is no voice, and there's just a tiny spot that I can slip something in there. So I needed the voice, but he didn't give it to me. And then what I did is I did extract it myself. I did like a reverse karaoke. I did remove all the background, and it took me, I think, a whole day to get this in a kind of good position, that I had the vocal, my isolated version of his vocals, and I put that on there, and then I laid down some other stuff. And I think then, maybe very shortly after, like a day or two, he sent me finally his real vocal, and so I had the good stuff to work with finally. And that's, of course, much better. And we did mostly use, we could have used like a FLAC, because it's a little bit smaller, but and the same quality. But nowadays, with all these sharing services, we don't need to be worried much about space. So we just and this the fastest
So
way.
just as a by the way, what were you using to transfer files, Mark?
We were using Dropbox.
Dropbox, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
we were
That's
sending it, and we probably sent back and forth probably about 800, I would say, files, because we're working in different sides of the world.
exactly.
And
I probably should have touched upon this. Mark, your location is.
I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada.
So we've got that part of the world, and Mimo, who never sleeps, of course, is in. You're in Tokyo, aren't you, Mimo?
Yes.
Or, yeah.
There's even a song like Tokyo Never Sleeps or something like that.
So, and of course, Mark, it sounds like Mimo was very demanding as well, wanting vocals and things all the time. So it's just straightforward tools. Then I assume you were talking Facebook Messenger,
Yep,
yeah,
that's
that kind of thing.
exactly.
And so I guess this is going to lead us a little bit to what you. I mean, there's a lot of services out there. I'm getting emails all the time, to be honest with you, from different services about, oh, this is great for songwriters to collaborate. There's a door out there. I can't even remember its name, but I did talk about it on an earlier show. There's a door which is, hooked up to the internet so that you can actually collaborate. And then, of course, you've got BandLab itself. That's a totally online tool, door for being able to collaborate. So, but you guys just did it the old-fashioned way. Was there a reason for that? Was it just the way it evolved, or?
It's hard to say. See, I'm old school. Even when it comes to the mixing, like, I mix everything, just, panning for stereo fields and a little bit of reverb, like a lot of stock stuff. And then, Mimo just got the magic there. He's got the whole, the buffet of stuff. So there's a lot of like, how did you do that? So
He's a pretty clever guy in that
but
way.
we did it a lot that way. So I'd send him a file and say, okay, this, and then he put the Mimo magic on it, I called it, and send it back to me. And then I would be like, I think it might be a little bit issue here or there. He's like, oh yeah, definitely. And then we just go back and forth. And I do have to say, one night was so funny because he asked me to put some backup vocals, and my basement was in a full reno. So I go and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll have to set my mic upstairs. And I put my headphones on and turn the gain up on it. And one of the backup vocals is like a big yell in the chorus. So I did that. And my dog jumped out of her skin like I was yelling at her, bolted down the hallway. The sound come through of her nails on the hard floors through the headset. I had a beer in my hand. I threw that up in there and I went back. Everything fell over. It was like something that could have made $1 million.
Please tell me that was in the final mix. Please tell me that was in the final mix. If we hear, is that somewhere? Can you do a re-release with that in there? That's
I'd have to check.
That's pretty interesting. So, I mean, I was going to save this till later, but I guess I can see the nature of this collaboration was almost like Mimo's sort of started to take some of the heavy lifting with the more technical side of things and the mixing. And then you just became, you became much more of the artist, Mark, yeah? I mean, you were
Yes.
providing material and he was, okay, so that's interesting. So I guess I asked Mimo, if you were working with someone who was also taking part in mixing and then that kind of thing, you would have to work differently to this. Am I correct?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question properly.
So I guess, I mean, if because it sounds like you were taking care of most of the actual mixing, and I mean you were adding instrumentation as well. But if you were collaborating with someone who was also mixing, it probably wouldn't be possible by sending stereo files backwards and forwards, right? Yeah. So
Yes, well, then the other guy can do it. I'm not demanding to do it. I I just offering it. I'm offering one way I can do it, and either it clicks on the other side
Yeah,
or
right.
not. And if
Okay.
not, it's totally okay with me. I don't have a problem with it. As I said from the beginning, all the way, this song is Mark's song.
Mm.
It is his creation, and I'm like just a guest in there and doing some stuff, and actually just the piano, which was the start of the whole thing, and which was done, and all the other things are side effects.
Now it sounds as though it took a while, but from my memory, from the initial post to when you actually sent the mix into the show, it would have been what, 6 or 7 weeks or something like that, or was it longer than that?
Oh, can you
I
think
think it
it
started in
was?
December last year.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
Okay. So yeah, probably my estimation. I think you made good ground, actually, guys. Of course, one of the things you had was some feedback from my guests, which was Dan and Ricky T. Brown. So we're going to be having a listen to their feedback, what advice,
Ah,
or some of the advice. I have to admit, they did talk a lot. I was looking at the show, yes, I was like, my God, these guys never stop talking, do they? But I've cut it down to the most useful parts that you probably got something out of it. But anyway, before we do that, let's just have another little look at what DistroKid can do in terms of promoting your music on Spotify and getting it onto some playlists. One of the ways to actually get your music heard on Spotify is to get onto a playlist. Now, DistroKid offers a really fun way to get onto one of their playlists with their Wheel of Playlists feature. Simply head over to your DistroKid account, go to the top right where it says Goodies, then go down to Wheel of Playlist, and then you start off simply by selecting a song, something you've already released, and then click on Connect with Spotify. Now, obviously, the further up a playlist you get, the more likely people are to actually hear your music and enjoy it. So what DistroKid do here with this feature is they give you 3 chances to spin a wheel, a kind of a wheel of fortune type of thing going on here. Now, the best result of those 3 spins determines your number in the playlist. And as I say, the higher up you are, the better. So on this occasion, I achieved 1,088. You can try every day if you like, so maybe that's something you'd like to do to actually get your music in a playlist on Spotify. Now, the vast majority of the feedback on the show was from Dan, from the YouTube channel The Lonely Rocker, a fellow Canadian, in fact, Mark. And also we had Ricky T. Brown on there as well. Let's just see some highlights of what they had to say about your mix at that time.
Couple of things that I felt were missing. Where was the snare drum? I was looking for it. I couldn't find it. I mean, I was listening. I was wanting to hear the whack of a snare drum.
Did you want to hear was it a volume thing, or did you want to hear more snap or crack to it?
Yeah, they're just either they were using a light sample or a rim shot or something. I just was like, where it was a big dynamic. I wanted to hear a real a real like a snare drum. When I say real, however they're drums, but it wasn't there. So a song like this, I really want to feel the energy in the bottom end, and I felt that the drums were not quite there. Also, I felt again, it's a really hard thing sometimes is that finding that placement for your bass drum and your bass guitar or whatever you got down there. They're always fighting for energy down there, and there are techniques you can use to employ to get those two things working together. Definitely, I mean, a simple EQ trick: roll off your bass a little bit before the kick drum, using sidechain with your, by locking your kick drum and your bass guitars together, so one triggers the other, so they kind of get out of the way of each other.
I mean, for me on this one, I don't know. It was an arrangement issue. It's more about the mix itself. Because using some beautiful orchestration in there, but I felt that the what would be the middle strings on there, or at least the chords on melodies around C3. For me, I'm expecting to hear that in the middle rather than off to one side, because that forms the body of what your vocal is sitting on. So that's kind of like your chord bed when you've got that going on. So I would have kept those in the middle, Mimo. But as far as the other parts go, I think, it's just it's just a question of finding that right balance. There's a lot going on there. So that's problematic in itself. So I honestly empathize with what you've tried to do there, because I've been reminding myself, so did I really do that? What I've been doing all day is trying to mix these tracks and make them work together, and what frequencies are they, what instruments playing there. Oh no, I need to.
So a lot of feedback there on different things. I'm interested now to hear an artist's perspective, having your work on the show, and then you're getting this feedback from people who've never heard the song before. So, Mark, what was your initial reaction? I'm interested. Was it expected? Was it, yep, I thought that, and they've confirmed it, or were there some things in there which you just hadn't occurred to you about the mix?
I was hoping there was going to be some criticism, because you need those opinions. You can't you hear a song so many times and you're like, oh, this sounds great. But when you get another good professional set of ears on it that can say, bring up some points, and then you actually play it again, you're like, oh my God, they're right. So I think, in my opinion, criticism is like, it's what you need, because you need to hear that from other people, and to make it the best that it can be.
And
so I was happy with it.
And was there anything? I guess, because as you say, you were saying that when you then listened to it, you went, "Oh my God, they're right." What was the most what was the biggest point for you? What was the one thing, if we could pick one thing, which really helped to improve the mix out of what you heard?
Normally when you do your own vocals on a song, you kind of shy yourself back on it. And I was like, oh, and I kept telling Mimo, I was like, I think we should turn the vocals down a little bit more. Right? And I was obviously doing the opposite. So, when they said, you got to raise those vocals up, and I never noticed about the drums, not really that snare. And then when we listened to it afterwards, like that boom, right? And then Mimo went and he added the reverb and turned it up, and then turned the vocals up, and I was like, oh yeah, they were 100% on the ball there.
And I think with a song like that, from what I remember, this is one of those more produced songs. There's a lot more going on than some other songs, and you kind of want it to sound big, but there's always a danger when you've got quieter parts and bigger parts, is getting that vocal level right as the song transitions from one to another. So, Mimo, was there a lot of automation happening with the vocals, or were you dealing with it with compression, or what was going on there?
There is so much automation going on, not only on the vocals, but everywhere. And if I may come back to that point about the feedback and what was the most valuable, for me, it was actually Mr. Lonely Rockers whack the snare. I was so happy to hear that, and actually, it didn't come to my mind before he mentioned it, because that was how the song was created, and what I imagined was how it is supposed to sound. So it would have never occurred to me to put some more rocking on the snare. But then after that comment, listening to it and then trying it out, man, yeah, that really gives it some drive, And the other thing, what my favorite of your other guests, Mr. Ricky, said was, I was a little butthurt by that. I'm sorry to say that, but he was right, and it was about, and yeah, not because of his comment, it was a little bit to me, because I had a discussion with Mark about exactly that point about the strings positioning, and for my I was very proud to have positioned those like they are in the orchestra, like everybody sits where they're supposed to.
Yes,
The
yes.
violins there,
Yeah.
the violas there, and just a little bit to the right, and figured all that out. But in the end, what you are hearing, of course, then the strings were gathered on the left side too much, and actually, so we had discussed it before. Mark wanted it like more to the middle, and I said, man, this is not right. It should be like orchestral, So we had actually a kind of disagreement, and but after that comment, I had to give in, and I moved the stuff on the left. I moved it just a little bit to the middle, not in the center, but a little more to the middle, and which made, of course, sounded better. And the vocals, yeah, of course, it was mentioned several times, and even not only on your show, on the feedback, I think there were some secret messaging going on between Mark and you guys, Mr. Mike and Mr. Ricky, yeah, and about and how is now, and I don't know how many versions, how many hundred versions he sent you, but I was like, so, but I understand that. I think especially vocalists are maybe very picky with their own stuff and how it is supposed to sound, and like even
singing is for anybody who sings, it's a very exposing experience. Okay, it's a very personal kind of thing. Not to say that, of course, other instrumentalists in their expression and what they do is not emotional, but there's something, especially because you're a focal part, so people are going to focus on what you're doing more than anything else. So it's very easy to become super self-conscious about what you do as a singer. Most people hate their own spoken voice and singing voice anyway. And it's one of the aspects of the show that sometimes one of the most valuable things that myself and my guests can do on the show is just to say to a singer, hey, you sound great. To give them that confidence to be able to just push the fader up a little bit, because I do it myself all the time. I'm like, I just want me to be a little bit lower in the mix and Susie a little bit higher in the mix, right? So it's a very, you feel almost very vulnerable as a singer. And so for the people watching the show, if you're doing a whole production by yourself, you're the vocalist, you're the guitarist, you're everything in it. This is why it's so valuable to have other people listen to your music, to take you out of the equation a little bit and get a more objective thing. Interesting as well, Mimo. I almost feel like you had a kind of a learning experience there, because I was very much like yourself. Like for me, it was like, well, in an orchestra, the strings are here and that's there, and also, when you listen to a drummer in a band, the toms go from here to here, and they're not that wide, they're that narrow. But I think it almost highlights two different ways of recording music. One, do you want to reproduce what can be done live? Or do you just want to have fun in the studio where there are no rules? You can put anything where you want, So has that changed the way you now think about mixes in that way, Mimo? You're going to be more flexible now?
I am already as flexible as it can get, Yes. Well, and I must say, at that stage, that whole thing, that was rather experimenting stuff, because I think when we sent it, the strings were not added too long ago, so we didn't have time to work out different things. So that was kind of the first thing put there, and yeah, that's it, and more like level adjustments more than anything. But it was a learning experience for me. Yes, of course. I will not put the strings on the orchestral positioning again if it is not an orchestral piece,
If it's an orchestral piece, you may well do that, right? Yeah, and even I guess if you're using a whole orchestra, even if it's contemporary orchestral or for a score or something like that, then orchestras are very well designed. You don't necessarily want to mess with that, right? But yeah, in a piece like this, then it's not so important. Hey, we can move them around. So it's nice to hear that you got your way, Mark. With that, was Mimo difficult to deal with in this way, or
Oh God, you know what? It was just so natural. We just had, and that's why, like, out of the other people that, I've kind of, sent some stuff out. And when I started talking to Mimo, we had the same views. He just jumped right on board. I mean, I just had this envision of, kind of like a 80s, 90s. And I know, Mike, you're a big fan of Bon Jovi. Just that kind of sound with a modern twist. But I was also a big fan of, like, if you ever seen like Kiss and Metallica with the San Francisco Orchestra.
Yeah,
And
right.
I just envisioned that orchestra in the back. And then I said to Mimo, I said, I think a little strings in the back. And next thing, he sent me all these strings. I was like just blown away. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. So we just had the same ideas, the same goal in the song. And it was great. It was an absolute pleasure working with them.
Which, just to geek out a little bit, Mimo, do you remember which string library you used for this?
Of course, I have the project loaded, and I can check that instantly for you. There are. Well, this is not simple because there are strings from 8DO, or how they are pronounced. I don't know.
Yeah, 8DO, yeah.
And also the Spitfire BBC, the free thingy, and the
Isn't
cello
that great,
was.
eh?
Yeah, it's great. The cello was actually the Swam cello, and which I love very much, and which Mark didn't, which he cut out at some point, sent me back the thing, and hey, the cello was missing in the.
It was too loud. I had to cut it back.
Yes.
Now, so isn't this really? I mean, I can't remember where I heard it said, but I know it was a member of Fleetwood Mac who said it in some documentary I was watching, where they were saying, look, of course you can produce everything by yourself these days, but you'll have more fun if you do it with other people. Is that true? And I mean, I guess I'll go to Mark. What's the importance of that for you now? Do you feel more inclined to collaborate more, or have you always collaborated anyway?
No, this is actually the first real collaboration, and it's been, in my opinion, an excellent experience. Like, I would do it again. I mean, if you find somebody that has the same kind of views, the same passion in the music on a song, and you can work with them and get along. I mean, Mimo and I, we talk personal stories that we became really good friends, and we just talk all the time. And it's we got along great. Everything was an excellent experience for me. I'd do it again 100%. Mimo, I got 2 other songs too coming up. So.
but it sounds as though, in a weird way, I mean, obviously you've generally got along, but you had some, at least, well, I'll describe them as minor disagreements, artistic disagreements here and there. I mean, I sort of feel that perhaps people think, oh, that's a negative thing. Actually, that's probably one of the more positive parts of the whole thing, right? Because we expand beyond ourselves. Is that right, Mimo? That you feel? Were there things that you felt if Mark wasn't there, if Paul was there, it would have been so much better if Paul had been there. But anyway, if Mark hadn't been there would have been things that perhaps you would have gone ahead and done, and maybe they wouldn't have been as good. Is that right?
It is kind of right, because if Mark wouldn't have been there, I wouldn't have worked on this great song in any way, because that would never have come to my mind. That is how I'm doing music since decades. You can like compare it to the live playing. It is like a collaboration, but in real time, and that is my main thing, which I do. I was somewhere in Poland, I think. I was. It was a totally different. It was an event about computer security, and I was a speaker there or something. And the after party, there were people from the IT community, guys with antivirus and stuff like that. They made in the after party, hey, we have a band set up, and I did play with them, and they did do that several times already. I did join for the first time because there was a keyboard on the stage, and I said, "Somebody playing that?" And they said, "No, you want to take it right?" And yeah, sure. And I hit some chords. Oh, this song, and the guy on the drum said, "You stay," and then we played 2 stages, both an hour long, without me knowing anything which will come up. I didn't know the song names or chords or anything. They just start playing, and like I did before, I hit some key. Oh, it is about this area, and then I jumped to that. Not jumped, jammed. So, and that is how I do all my playing since a long time. I go to gigs, and maybe we have a song list, and I know like about this will be it. This will be the song, and maybe then the root note is G or something, and that's all. And then I go there, and what I do is I listen to what's going on, and I put my stuff in there where is a place, and that's all. And so that is for me, this is the most fun. It's much more fun than doing all this alone on my computer.
Absolutely,
I can do it, of course.
Yeah.
It is a one-man Mimo band, but it may sound great, but the experience of playing together, and you know, like now I if I do that on the computer, it is like a slow motion. I can feel everything and do everything like it is supposed to be. But that's not for me. The point is the reaction, the speed of reaction. If something is going on in real time, you hear something and bam, and there I whack my my keyboard or something. And
it's so cool, and I love. You know, for the things that from when I think about decades gone by and the things I've worked with people on, then there's always that between artists. There's always a kind of a bond after that. With that, just it may only be with that specific piece of music, but it's that excitement that you went through together of exploring the music and it's evolving, and then finally when you get a product at the end of it where you go, that's not too bad. We're pretty happy with that. It's a wonderful experience that you just don't get when you work by yourself, honestly, and it's a bonding experience. We did have a question here from one of our regular members, Ordered 29, and he's asking, what are the first baby steps you would recommend to start exploring collaboration? I'll go to Mark on that one.
I mean, I would say if you get the kind of the ideas, what I call it, or somewhat the fundamentals of the song, have it done. I mean, if you do what I did, I reached out and I think I said, is anybody interested in laying a piano track on a song? You don't have to jump to that first, email that you get with, explore it out. It's your song. Like that was the great thing with me and Mimo, is because I've had a couple really amazing musicians lay a couple piano tracks, and I was like, this is great, but I want something in between. And Mimo did that there. It was perfect. And then personalities. If you're going to work on a song with somebody, you want to get along.
Right.
That's one of the main things.
And of course, I know that Mark, you seem like a person who would get along with most people, and what you're not saying that you wouldn't have got along with those other contributors, but then there's a certain chemistry you'll get with particular people, right? Where you just go, yep, this is just going in the right direction. I mean, chemistry is very important. It's a bit like matchmaking, really, isn't it? It's got to be. It's got to be initial physical attraction. No. But yeah, it's really important. And you, as I'm going to reiterate, you did that in our Cakewalk group there on Facebook, and there is a link for that in the description. I've seen a number of people kind of reach out there. It's a good place to start. So if you're thinking, for people watching, if you're thinking about collaborating, put posts in there. from what I've seen, it's not too difficult to get some responses. There's a lot of people who really enjoy the idea or like the idea of collaborating with other people and doing that. Mimo, advice to people: how do they get started? How do you handle? Just reiterating again, how do you handle being the person who's not the initial creator of the music? What was your attitude there?
I'm not sure how to answer that, and I didn't have any attitude really. I was happy that somebody maybe could use what I have an idea to add. So I put a sample and sent it, and that's all basically. I don't, and it wasn't planned to do it like over several months. I would have already dropped that thing long time ago, but we are still not done 100% on some final tiny parts, like ending of a word, like and this is a little bit too small. Can you make it bigger? Yeah, of course. So, but really, this is that can turn into a never-ending story, and I think it is already good to go as is.
Yeah, I mean, I know many of us in the community are guilty of having songs on their hard drives for years sometimes, which never quite get finished. And it's definitely been a different experience for me in the last few years, where I've just released a lot more music, and I think getting it out there and getting it released, there's only so much you can learn from one piece of music. You want to learn what you can from it, but then move on to the next one and say, look, here's a snapshot of the best I could do at the time, and put it out there to the world. I promise you, whatever you do, you'll always listen years later and think, oh, I wish I could change that. It will be never ending. But I personally think the song, I've listened to the final, I'm not going to call it the final mix, the latest mix, and I can definitely hear the improvements that were made, both, in reflection to what my guests had to say, but also other improvements have been made as well. And indeed, I'm going to play the latest mix, or we'll call it the final mix, shall we?
I'm sure Mimo's going to change the drums.
We'll play that in a moment as an outro to the show. But I am going to just say thank you to the people who have been in the chat, and especially to Doug and Kionra, who have had very little help from Mimo in this particular show. He will be back next week moderating and helping you out, of course. But listen, I've really enjoyed having some artists on the show. It's just been really wonderful to hear a little bit of the behind the scenes. I would love to encourage more people to send their mixes in for the show. There are instructions for that in the description down below. It's quite easy. Just send me an email. I just want you to have Fix My Mix in the title so that I can find them easily, because my inbox is... Do you know I've got 2,500 unread emails at the moment, just as a little side issue. But it helps me enormously if you could just follow those instructions and make sure you've got that done. I just want to say quickly, Mimo, can you reveal to us what T-shirt you're actually wearing underneath your jacket? Is it? I thought so. I thought it had to be. I thought it had to. I've been looking at it the whole show, and I've been thinking, is that a Pink Floyd T-shirt he's got on there? There you go. Obviously, they did some good marketing at some point. We can recognize it just from the bricks.
It is, yeah, and it totally fits the beer belly, because if you see from the side, it is really exploding.
Now, folks, I just want you to comment. I've noticed that during the course of this, that Mimo visually has been glitching out here and there during the show. It's only confirming to me a little bit that he may not be human. He may actually just be a computer character or something like that.
He's a machine.
Let me know in the comments whether is Mimo a real human or not. Let's finally get that decided. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being my guest on this show, Mark and Mimo. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I hope it inspires people to do what you've done, collaborate together, get together. And it's so much fun by the looks of it. I wish I had time. Mark, any final words that you would like to make?
Well, actually, I was going to bring it up. Out of the months upon months that Mimo and myself have been working on this song, this is the actual first time we got to see each other's mugs.
That's true, isn't it?
we've never seen each other, just Facebook pictures and stuff like that, but we've never actually seen each other. It's always been Messenger.
There you go. Congratulations. A little bit more of this. And Mimo, any final words you have? Recommendations, inspirational quotes, anything at all?
Well, yeah. Just, don't be shy and ask around for collaboration and see what comes of it. It is better to try than not,
I love that.
And besides that, I would like to thank you very much for having us and featuring this song again. That's very kind of you, and I think it will give us a boost in terms of confidence and to get on with the release finally after months and months, And besides that, be safe, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks very much for being on the show. Thanks to people who have been in the live chat, and thank you if you're watching on the replay. Do make sure you leave your comments. It's always interesting to see those. Let's have a listen to the final stroke, current mix of the song as we end the show.
Just a man standing in a spotlight, trying to stay strong, trying to hold on. I open my eyes to things that I've disguised, things I thought I knew were only things that are just lies. There were times I got down on my knees, looking for my faith, running far away from me. There were nights I could not sleep, nights I fear the demons running deep inside of me. I'll be your hero, I'll be the man you need if you're standing here in my shadow. You will always be the light that I need. And I can't lie, God knows I've tried. Hide my fears, hide these tears of feeling just so tired. But there's a light that'll shine so bright. Hold your head